and welcome to the Direct Selling Success Podcast. I'm Anna Green, and I'm here to share with you tips, tricks, and training on network marketing done right. Thank you for listening. Welcome to In Conversation With. So for those of you out there watching and listening right now, I am live here with Sita McKee from Your Valued. I'm super excited about this call. We are here today to talk about mental wellness. So, Sita, I'm going to hand it over to you. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do. That would be great.
Thank you so much, Anna, for having me. It's really fabulous to be part of this podcast and, raise awareness about mental wellness. So thank you so much. And hello, everyone. So my name is Sita McKee. I'm the founder and director of Your Valued, a wellness company. And I'm also a registered mental health nurse. I've had so many years of experience in health and social care, and I'm still currently practicing as a mental health nurse, and also doing Your Valued, where I'm hoping to reach out to more people to, raise awareness about mental wellness.
Oh, brilliant. So tell us a little bit more about Your Valued and what it's all about.
So Your Valued is my baby, if I can put it that way. And I'm very passionate about Your Valued. And I think the name says it all. I just want people that we reach out to feel valued. So our mission is to, or rather vision, is to value people, make them feel included, or also promoting inclusivity and enabling mental wellness in a challenging world. So we all know how challenging our world is at the moment. I mean, with COVID coming, we thought we've had time to breathe. And then as COVID goes away, now we're back into that sort of like running and never stopping. So it's really, really hard. And I'm sure your audience would, agree with that. Yeah. So Your Valued is Your Valued is hoping to reach out to everyone. So we don't have a specific group of people that we are working with because mental wellness is for everyone. So we are reaching out to everyone and spreading the word of making sure that we keep well. And I know we'll lead into this later, but I can't help but say a little bit. I know that mental health is a big thing now that we're all talking about mental health, which is fabulous. And we should be talking about mental health. I don't think we should ever stop talking about mental health. But I can't help but think from my background in mental health nursing that anytime the word or the phrase mental health comes up, you can't help but start thinking about, what's going on with that person. So it all starts to become a bit negative, like thinking about symptoms and the conditions. And we're moving away from the wellness side of it. So I want to actually raise more awareness on the wellness side, even though we are aware that we need to be talking about mental health. Does that make sense? I hope I'm not confusing.
It totally makes sense, because I know from personal experience with my mental health that it's got such a bad stigma around it, hasn't it? And the way people think, mental health problems, it's not good, it's really, really negative or extreme, and it's not necessarily either of those things. And the reason I wanted you on this podcast was because I think it's so important to recognize that everybody needs to have that mental wellness. It's negative. That negative image of mental health doesn't have to be there, because it's not always negative. It doesn't have to be always negative. And yes, some of us have issues and things with our mental health or wellness, but talking about it can make such a difference. Such a difference.
Yes. And I'm so glad that you mentioned about the stigma. And I'll give you an example. Say, if your audience have like a young family or so, you go into like a school drop-off or pick-up and you meet with other parents and you're sharing ideas and you're thinking, it's a big thing now. We're all talking about mental wellness or mental health. So I can feel that this is a safe place to tell somebody that I'm really struggling now. And the next thing, another person hears about what you're experiencing, and you're thinking, why have they taken it as a stigma? And people are saying, she has mental health issues, something like that. So we want to try and raise awareness that it's okay to talk about it and not feel guilty to say mental health. So if maybe mental wellness gives us that sort of positive sort of like a positive connotation to it, to help us to channel it in a more positive way rather than a negative way, and therefore we start holding back and not wanting to share, so stopping that sort of stigma. Yeah,
and I think that is a brilliant way of putting it. And when we had a chat, me and Sita had a chat before we came on this podcast last week, and we were talking about just changing that one word from mental health to mental wellness just transforms that whole statement, doesn't it? Actually, everybody should be thinking about looking at their mental wellness.
Wellness. Yes, I love that.
So the thing is, so many people think, oh, I don't have a mental health problem. I don't have mental health issues. You don't need to have mental health issues to look after the wellness of your mental health.
Yeah. And as we said again last week, it's mental wellness is more steering towards early intervention. So stopping ourselves from getting poorly, in time.
Yeah.
So you don't have to feel ashamed if you are not able to express or discuss with close friends and family about what your experiences are. So why not find a way to empower ourselves and have that sort of wellness attitude and early intervention to address things that can potentially become really, I don't want to say harmful, but affect our health in that sort of way. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's surprising at how much our mental health does affect our ability to do things, our physical health, everything, doesn't it?
Our whole life, Anna, our whole life.
Yeah.
Our whole life. And you don't realize until you've actually experienced a little bit of it. And you're like, oh my goodness. So if I hadn't sought help, this is how bad further down I could have gotten, And if I seek help earlier, this is how it might look like. So I can give myself as an example. So a few years ago, I was in a really challenging job. And I think I wanted to prove myself so much. I was doing more and more and more all the time. And sometimes when you're excited and passionate about something, you forget that you're human and you can break, So I was just giving and giving and giving. And I got to a point where I realized I didn't have much more to give. And then I started feeling burnout. So burnout here, for me, my burnout started looking like my heart racing, so heart palpitation, and I wasn't sleeping. I was sort of worried, thinking about the next thing I can do to address a situation. And my sleep pattern changed, and I wasn't eating well, and I was extremely tired because I wasn't sleeping. And I realized I had to do something about it. So it's either I let it go to a point where it's really hard to pull it back, or I just immediately start finding a solution and get to a place where I recognize myself again in the mirror, So that's what I did. And from that moment, I started realizing that, my goodness, I'm not just the only one in this position or situation. A lot of us feel it, but we don't recognize it to call it back, and then we end up getting to a position or a situation where it's harder, because then you need more months or years to recover from that burnout. And it can even lead you into depression and to sort of like anxiety as well. And then mental health becomes the main issue, and it's hard for you to talk about it because you feel ashamed. But if you had recognized the signs earlier on and be able to pull yourself back and address it, we wouldn't be going to that extreme end and seeking all this help from doctors. And there's nothing bad in going to see your GP, but if you can prevent it before you get to that stage, why not prevent it?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And so many of us, and I know I was the same, you see it as a weakness.
Yes.
Yeah. We feel like it can feel like you're letting somebody down, you're letting yourself down. It shouldn't happen to you. Yeah, all those things. And actually it's normal and it's okay. And it's surprising how many people suffer with any sort of anxiety, sadness, stress. Yeah, it's very surprising. I bet there's so many people that are watching today that will have something going on in their lives that means that they are in need of a little bit of mental wellness.
Honestly, Anna, and I think the signs are different for everyone. I mean, I've mentioned what my experience was. And as you said, you rightly said that about the weakness. So the fact that people might see you as weak, you don't want to carry on or how do I say this, to let them see you that way. So
Yeah.
you would rather keep
Yeah.
going and going until you break, you know. So it's really good to identify that it's not being weak. If you see that you're tired or if you realize that you are not your usual self, take a step back, reflect, and see what's going on.
Yeah.
If you don't recognize what these signs are, speak to someone. And this is the sort of thing I talk about in your value when I'm working with clients, to talk about how you can speak to someone to support you, someone who is not really involved in your life. So have that objective view, if you like, to take a step back and look at it with you and outline and say, is this what you've been experiencing? If you recognize it, what does wellness look to you? Let's look at that wellness and work with you to get to that wellness. Yeah.
So what sort of things should people look out for then? What sort of signs are common?
So in terms of burnout, so burnout here, I'm more referring to, I mean, your audience, majority of them, if I'm not wrong, will be like entrepreneurs, working business people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
burnout here, I'm really focusing on people working. So whether your own business or you're working for an employer. So it can manifest itself like in terms of extreme tiredness, also deprived sleep, as it was in my case. I wasn't sleeping well at all. Also, your eating habits changes. You can also self-neglect, because you can't even remember the last time you probably had a really good time to look after yourself properly, spoil yourself, go for a massage or something, have a manicure, pedicure, something to lift your spirit up. It can also manifest itself as a lack of motivation, which a lot of us might experience. But the fact that you're lacking motivation one or twice in your life doesn't mean that you're burnt out. So if it's constant, if it's persistent, and you're seeing this pattern just remaining the same and nothing is shifting, and then you know that, no, this is not right. Because if you compare it to your old self, which wasn't burnout, you realize that this isn't your regular pattern. So the key here is actually being very observant and knowing yourself, so that when you're deviating from that norm of who you are, then you can be able to identify these are the signs that I'm experiencing. There's also a feeling of overwhelmness and also extreme stress, as you were talking about, feeling stressed all the time. And some of these symptoms of burnout can also be or are symptoms of depression and anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I
So
used to
can you
suffer
see how
massively
they're
from
also linked in? They're
it.
also linked in. So if you don't address the burnout issue and you leave it for so long, you can end up getting into depression.
Yeah. Or it couldn't. It could just be because we have a lot of mums in this community. We have people who work full time, people who run their own businesses, all sorts of different types of people. So burnout might not be a thing. I've never suffered from burnout, but I have massively suffered from anxiety, and I know that those are the sorts of things that I tend to crop up. I mean, I never have trouble with sleep, but if I am feeling anxious or if I'm getting to that stage, I sleep more, lots more. And I can't feel it really hard to wake up and I want to go to bed in the afternoon. And that's one of my symptoms. And that feeling of dread sometimes. I know it's quite extreme. You can feel like things aren't going right all the time, and you've got a lot of negative thoughts in your head.
Yes.
And whereas I am normally the most positive person, but if I feel anxious, they're the symptoms I know to look out for. So I think everybody's very different, aren't they?
Yeah. But I love how you've just said it. For me, what I've picked up from what you've just said is you know yourself.
Very
Do you
well.
see?
Yeah. Now I do.
So,
but I've done all these things.
which is something that I'm really happy, or I'll be eager for your audience to know. So if you don't know what's normal for you, maybe from this podcast, actually pick it out and say, let me try and take time out and get to know myself, because when you know yourself and you're deviating from it, you would know. And that's where you can seek the early intervention before it gets to a point where it's harder to work on it.
Absolutely. But still possible. That is the message I'd like to give out. It is still possible, even if it's been years and you've not felt right for a long time. It's still possible to.
There is still hope for everyone. There's
absolutely
still hope for everyone. Yeah,
absolutely.
But it's just for me, it's more about the harder work you put in if you leave it too long. So if you don't want to put in too much hard work to bring it back, then let's try and stop it from getting there. But there is definitely hope. And, there is so much help out there nowadays, so it's good not to keep it in and talk about it. And I love the fact that you and I have been open to share our vulnerabilities, me talking about my burnout, you talking about your anxiety. So if we keep talking about it, and not just talking, but actually looking at ways to address them, the symptoms or signs or the experiences we are having that is different from what our wellness looks like, then at least we know we are doing something about it. It's better to do something than not to do anything at all, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. The other thing as well is, I suppose, these symptoms you can look out for in other people. So if you've got close friends that are changing their behaviors or habits or mindset, look out for those as well, because friendships, I think, are key in mental wellness.
Yes, definitely. And as I said, if you are an objective person, like the person standing away from who is experiencing it, you see it better, don't you? Whereas the person experiencing it, it might take you longer to actually recognize it, that this is not right. It would have to really repeat itself for so long. But somebody who really knows you, and like you said, you're a very positive person. I like to believe I'm a very positive person as well. So if I start saying negative things, my friends and family who are close to me say, that doesn't sound like you. And then you sort of look again, or it registers that no, something is wrong now. So you are right. Our friends and family or loved ones, people around us, should be able to call it out if they see that there's a change in somebody's usual self. Yeah.
Is there a better way to do that? What is there a tip you can give us on talking to somebody you know that might be experiencing something like this?
So for me, the tips I have is usually interacting with people. So when you have a good social network, or you're able to interact well with people around you, your close network, if something is different, they would know, isn't it? But if you're not one who interacts, then it's really hard. And then in a way, it's like you're suffering on your own. But the other thing we need to remember is we are social beings. There's no way we can live without, having interactions with others. I know that some of us, and this is not to make others feel bad if they don't have friends or family. It's others choose and others don't choose to be in that situation. And that is okay. But we can always try to build that sort of relationship with others, because we know that we are social beings. And without the connection of others, that loneliness steps in. And then we start feeling that depression as well. There's a massive link between loneliness and depression as well, isn't there? So it's, if you don't have that family or friends around you, your social network is not great, you can start making some sort of an effort to start to get to know one or two people. It doesn't have to be a massive group of people, just the one person you can trust, the one person you feel able to connect or discuss something with, So for me, that is a way that you could try and do something about the fact that you are not connecting with others. So that if something is not right with you, they're able to help you pick it out before it gets to a point where it's harder to call it back. I feel like that should become a term. I keep saying call it back.
I think it's so right. And it doesn't take much to just ask somebody how they're feeling, or asking if somebody's all right, or making the effort to go and meet someone for coffee, or pick up the phone, or just a text, anything to somebody that you can see just isn't quite feeling it at the moment can make such a difference. And I find the nicest thing that people do for me is just a compliment. Just a compliment or a thank you for something just makes my day. And it can just boost your well-being. It's just such a lovely thing to do. So yeah, I'm setting everybody a challenge to go and compliment somebody today. Just go and make somebody's life that little bit more rosy and just go and give them a compliment.
Kind words, saying kind words to people.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially to those that are having a hard time. Yeah. So can you give us some top tips to help improve our mental wellness?
So one I've already mentioned about social interaction.
Yeah.
So connecting with others. So it could be, text, it's good. I like that. But I also want that physical contact with others.
Yeah.
So going out for coffees with people, just going to the movies. I mean, if you can think back to probably years ago, whilst you were growing up or the sort of social network or connections you built with friends and family. And then sometimes you think back at the funny conversations you had. It always sort of brings a smile to your face without you realizing it. So that tells you the power of human connection, you see. And the second tip I would like to give is practicing mindfulness or meditation. So here, as much as it's good to connect with people, it's also good to have that solo time to reflect, energize, get your energy back, because sometimes when you see people, you're giving so much energy away, which is beautiful, but you need to also go back and recharge.
Absolutely.
So
there's only so much you can give away, isn't there?
Yeah. So that recharge moment is your me time to get to sort of reflect, meditate. If you like meditation, practice mindfulness as well. If you like or prefer that. If you're a person of faith as well, I find out some of my clients prefer to meditate on scriptures or to watch a movie or listen to music, something that takes their mind off the everyday worries. You see, no matter how you say, you might have a very positive person saying that, oh, I don't have any worries. Really? We all do, I think.
Yeah,
but
we do.
It's about trying to put that aside. So that me time, not thinking about anybody or anything, put work aside. It is okay to give yourself that protected time and just being with yourself, spending time with yourself, getting to understand yourself, being with yourself and just breathing. I was just thinking before this session to say, sometimes we just forget how powerful it is to just take 5 minutes and just do a breathing in exercise. When we are going and we're on the move, we're on auto breathing, isn't it? You don't even realize if you're breathing out or breathing in, so just giving yourself that 5 minutes away, just meditating on your breathing in and your breathing out, is so powerful. And you're feeding your brain with so much oxygen as well. And if you are feeling stagnant with ideas in terms of business, guess what? That oxygen feeding the brain, you start coming up with ideas. And I find that most times ideas come to us when we are quiet. Yes. When there's so much noise in the background and in our head, it's too busy. When do you actually know which is a good idea and which is not a good idea? So for business owners, if you want your businesses to thrive, I think the time is just taking that time away. And reflecting and just being with yourself, just that peace and quiet to just let the good ideas flow in. Okay. And I think the third tip I want to share is being physically active. So I'm not talking about registering with a gym and going for strenuous exercise. It's good if you have the strength and energy to do that. But if you don't have that, it's okay to go for walks. If you love gardening, do some gardening. If you have pets, dogs, go for walks with them. I mean, you would be doing that, but in a more meaningful way, making a conscious effort to make sure that you're doing that often. And also looking after your diet and making sure that you are feeding the body with good stuff. Because when we feed the body with not so good stuff, guess what? Not so good stuff comes out of us. So the more good stuff you fill the body with, the more good things will be coming out of you. And also sleeping. So a technique for if you're struggling with sleep, like I did during my burnout, one of the things I used was sort of like using white noise, a sound I really like. So I love the sound of rain. So I will put on rain sounds on my phone, but with a dark screen, because you don't need that light to wake you, and just listen to that. Beautiful. Others might not like it, but for me, we are all different. So it's knowing what you like. So if you like something, a sound of something, you could play that and just listen, let it soak in. And I realized that within 5 minutes, I was gone. I would just fall asleep and feel refreshed in the morning. So sleep, not sleep that you have 2 to 3 hours. That is not sleep, I don't believe. So sleep is having quality sleep, enough hours, waking up and feeling really refreshed and knowing that you can take on the challenge of the new day. So yeah, these are my top 3 tips that I want to share, but I've got a few more on my link. So if people want to link in and sort of like listen to it, yeah, they're welcome to.
Yes, because you've got a video on there as well, haven't you?
Yes, I've got a masterclass video that I share 5 tips about how you can keep well and move you away from burnout to boldness, where boldness looks like you're in control, you're confident, and you can take on any challenge that is thrown at you, be it work, be it family, anything, but you need to prepare yourself to get to that place of boldness.
Yeah, I love that phrase. Burnout to boldness.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on here and being my guest today. It's been fabulous. I really hope our listeners have enjoyed it today. If anybody does have any questions, there's a comment section underneath that you can ask away. I will also put Sita's links underneath so you can access the masterclass and her website details if you want to get in touch with her, and your social media links as well. Where can they find you on socials?
So I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, and I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah. What's your handle?
Sorry, I've sent them all to you. So if we put it down,
we'll write them underneath.
Yeah.
It's your valued. You just don't.
It's your valued. Your valued.
Yeah. But we'll find you. It's all good. So thank you so much. It's been amazing.